Welcome, brave souls, to another journey into the darkness. Prepare yourselves for a tale that will send shivers down your spine and haunt your dreams forever. I have prepared my most macabre terror story that I can think of to share with you, so brace yourselves, for this story will make your blood run cold and your heart race with dread. The Ghost of Josette DuPres Collins. The old Collinswood mansion, perched on a cliff overlooking the turbulent Atlantic, had long been abandoned. Its once grand halls now stood silent, save for the eerie whispers of the wind that wound through the broken windows and crumbling walls. Locals spoke in hushed tones of the ghost that haunted its corridors, a spectral figure doomed to wander in eternal sorrow, the ghost of Josette DuPres Collins. Josette had been a beautiful French woman, brought to the shores of Maine by her lover Barnabas Collins. There was to be a love story for the ages, but tragedy had terminated their romance. Indulged by jealousy of a curse, Barnabas was transformed into a vampire, and in a fit of rage and despair, he drove Josette to the cliffs, where she plunged to her death. Since that fateful night, her spirit remained attached to Collinswood, seeking solace in an eternity of heartache. It was a stormy autumn evening when Kelly, a history major with a penchant for the paranormal, arrived at Collinswood, armed with a flashlight, a tape recorder, and abundance of curiosity. She intended to document the legend of Josette DuPres Collins. She had heard the stories, the warnings, but dismissed them as mere superstition. As she crossed the threshold, the air grew heavy with an unnameable dread. The first room she explored was the grand ballroom, where once Josette and Barnabas had danced beneath the glittering chandeliers. The furniture was draped in white sheets, resembling spectacled figures frozen in time. Kelly's flashlight flickered, casting fleeting shadows on the walls. She could almost hear the distant stairs of a valse, the ghostly echo of a happier time. Kelly set up her tape recorder on a dusty table and began speaking. "Is there anyone here who wishes to communicate?" Her voice sounded small in the vast emptiness. For a moment there was nothing but the sound of her own breathing. Then, faintly, a voice whispered back, "Leave this place." Her heart pounding, but she steadied herself, convinced it was just her imagination. She pressed on, her footsteps echoing as she ascended the grand staircase, each step cracking underfoot. At the top, a long corridor stretched before her, lined with portraits of the Collins family. Josette's portrait stood out, her painted eyes seeming to follow Kelly's every move. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the hallway. Extinguishing her flashlight, Kelly fumbled in the dark, her fingers trembling as she tried to relight the light. A distant sobbing reached her ears, growing louder, more anguish. She felt a chill at her back, a presence, and turned slowly to face the darkness. There, at the end of the corridor, stood Josette. Her figure was translucent, her dress tattered and stained with seaweed. her eyes pools of endless sorrow. She extended a pale hand towards Kelly, her voice a mournful wail. "Help me." Kelly's instinct was to run, but something in Josette's eyes held her in place. Compassion overpowered fear. "How can I help you?" she whispered. Josette's form flickered, and she began to speak, her voice layered with echoes of the past. She told Kelly of the curse, of Barnabas' torment, and her own unending despair. "I am bound to this place by the love I lost. Free me from this torment." Before Kelly could respond, a violent gust of wind slammed her against the wall. The hallway twisted and blurred, and she found herself back in the ballroom. The air was thick with malvoyant energy, and Josette's ghost was no longer alone. Shadows moved around her, dark writings, shapes that whispered of vengeance and pain. Desperately, Kelly reached for her tape recorder, hoping to capture any evidence of the supernatural, but as she pressed record, the shadows lunged and the device was knocked from her hands. Josette screamed, a sound of pure agony that vibrated through the mansion. Kelly felt herself being pulled towards the open balcony, the same balcony from which Josette had leaped to her death. She grasped at the banister, trying to resist the unseen force dragging her to the edge. "Josette, please, I want to help you." But the spirit was beyond reason. Consumed by centuries of suffering, the last thing Kelly saw was Josette's teary, streaked face, twisted in a mixture of sorrow and rage. Before she was pushed over the edge, the icy wind wiped around her as she fell, the jagging rocks below rushing up to meet her. The next morning, the townspeople found Kelly's broken body on the shore. The mansion stood as silent as ever, a mute witness to the horrors within, and inside Collinswood, the ghost of Josette DuPres Collins continues her restless vigil, waiting for another soul to hear her tragic tale. Thank you for tuning into this eerie tale. Until next time, stay tuned for more spine-chilling stories. This was Sandra Pink.